And because she raised me, I had a lot of that, like, "Oh, I need to be a good, obedient Asian woman,"
Mm. Mm.
which is who I am not, but I have this like, I tell people all the time, like, I carry this Asian woman backpack, and it's very heavy because
Mhm.
everybody comes with it, right? It's like the thing
Yeah.
you're taught, and you have to decide at some point in your life, "Hey, when is it time to put it down?"
Welcome to Tradition Breakers. I'm Mary Moses, former corporate executive turned creative entrepreneur. And each episode, I bring you an inspiring person or message to help more of us in the AAPI community break free from restrictive traditions that are preventing us from going after the life that we truly desire. Let's dive in. You're running ads, you're sending emails, you're working with influencers, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, but the conversions still aren't there. Here's the truth. Your problem isn't marketing, it's the lack of someone leading it. I'm Mary, fractional CMO for multi-unit restaurants, cafes, spas, and clinics. I helped scale a national restaurant brand past 30 locations, launched in major cities like LA, New York, and San Francisco, and grew loyalty programs to over 500,000 members. A growing brand like yours doesn't need the overhead of a full-time CMO. But what you do need is a leader making sure your marketing is actually growing your business. If you're tired of fragmented marketing that leads to inconsistent and poor results, let's talk so we can change that. Visit tastydirectives.com/contact to schedule a call. That's tastydirectives.com/contact. Can't wait to talk to you. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Tradition Breakers. I'm your host, Mary Moses, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Alice Kao. I am interviewing Alice today, and she is the co-founder and CEO of Sender One, which is an awesome indoor rock climbing facility in Southern California. They have over 8 locations, and they offer unique experiences for brand new and seasoned climbers, families, and kids. Alice, I'm very excited to chat with you today about your entrepreneurial journey, your personal growth journey. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's just get into it. What do you think makes you a tradition breaker?
When I saw the title of your podcast, I thought about when you reached out to me, I thought it was so funny because I am an Asian woman in the rock climbing gym industry. And I'll tell you, you're not going to meet another Asian woman that's in the rock climbing gym industry in America. And,
Really?
I tell people this all the time. Like, I used to have a real job before I had this job. No, I have a real job, but I was an investment banker out of school. I sold toys for 12 years. And then I decided to quit my job and do this crazy thing and start a rock climbing gym. So that's
Wow.
pretty tradition breaking.
That's very tradition breaking. And I wasn't aware of that, how you're the only one, it sounds like, in the rock climbing industry. It's so cool. And you're like an owner and a CEO on top of that.
It's funny because if you come to the gym and you watch people climb here, it's
Hmm.
very diverse. There's like our audience, our customers are 50-50 men and women, but on the ownership and the management level in the industry, it's still like predominantly men and mostly white. Yeah.
Mm. So you were born and raised in Taiwan, moved to the US for 12. I'm curious, how did that transition, that experience, right, shape your identity, shape your choices in going into an industry like rock climbing and being, one of the few Asian women, or maybe even only Asian woman in the management and the ownership stage? Like, how did that affect everything that you're doing right now?
So have you heard of the term a parachute kid? Do you know what that is?
No, I don't. Tell me.
Okay, so I didn't know that there was a name for it, but it's a phenomenon, I guess, because I came to the US by myself. My mom dropped me off in America, basically. It was, circumstances, but she had a business and my stepdad had cancer, so she had to be with him and my brother. But she just like gave me some money, rented me an apartment. She had a friend who lived down the street from me, who signed my
Hmm.
relationships. But I raised myself when I came to the US, like around 13. I went to high school in Palos Verdes, and it's funny because I have a 12-year-old now, and I can't imagine her raising herself at 12, but when I was going through it, it didn't feel traumatic or abnormal, it
Yeah.
was life, right? And,
Yeah.
but I walked to school, cooked and cleaned and took care of myself, did my homework, and I just didn't tell anybody that my parents weren't
Wow.
here.
Okay, so many
Um,
questions.
yeah. But you haven't heard like, there's a lot of people, like, not I wouldn't say a lot, there are definitely people like me. I met people like me
Oh, I'm
that, like
sure.
yeah, like, their parents are from China or from Taiwan or Philippines or Japan, wherever, and they wanted their kids to come to America, and then they just, like, sent them here. Because
Yeah.
the other option is you can send them to, like, boarding school, but that it wasn't in my case. My mom just she had a friend who lived down the street. It was like that.
Oh,
And but,
wow.
I went to sleep by myself, alone.
So, how did that all happen? Were they consulting you or preparing you ahead of time before you left?
I
Like
mean
it's just like so independent of
right.
you to be able to do all that at such a young age, in my opinion,
Right.
you know?
It wasn't like that at all. Like I said, it was just my life, right? But there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of circumstances. Like my stepdad, he was sick. He had cancer, and my brother was very little. So my mom would come with me for a little bit, and then she would say, "You know what? I have to go back to be with your brother, so you're just gonna have to stay here and make it." It was just like that.
You're so strong, Alice. That's so impressive.
Thank you.
Um,
So, but
so
your question was like, how did that kind of led me into entrepreneurship? I mean,
yeah.
I've been doing a lot of I know a lot of people do this, right? Like, you grow up with your childhood, and you kinda go back at some point in your life, and you go back and reprocess different things that had happened as a child.
Yes.
I think I learned to, like, survive. So,
Right.
one example was COVID was a terrible time for my business. COVID was terrible. We lost millions of dollars, we had to lay off 130 people, shut the gyms
Ugh.
down, but I actually felt a little bit, like, in my element, if that makes
How
sense.
so? How so? Tell me.
Because, like, when things are really bad, I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, like, I know how to do this." Like, I know how to survive things, so it
Mm.
felt like it was gonna be okay.
Mm.
Now, that has cost, right, in my life in other ways, but when it comes to, like, really hunkering down and, like, grinding through everything, I'm really good at it.
That's why you
Yeah.
probably enjoy rock climbing,
Yeah.
because it's like a puzzle for you. Am I right? Or like,
Yeah.
it could be something that's super challenging and maybe impossible for some people, but that challenge, like you're talking about with COVID, it seems like it excites you and you're not scared of it. You don't run away from it.
I think climbing for me, the reason I was attracted to climbing actually is a community aspect. I am somebody who's not very good at being alone. I have a hard time being by myself. I'm really into the community aspect. I'm very social, very outgoing. And that was what I loved about climbing is the community. I come to the climbing gym and I would just be talking to a stranger, sitting next to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really nice.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And so that experience of your childhood, that definitely makes a lot of sense for your choice in starting a business, being an entrepreneur, going through that experience during COVID, which was really difficult and challenging for a lot of people. How would you say that changed, or if it did, transform your business going through that time of COVID?
I was talking to an investor about this today, and he asked me a question.
Yeah.
He was like, "Well, what happens if like something terrible, it's like what's a downside? What's my risk?" And I told him, I was like, "You know what? I actually feel like after now that I've gotten through COVID, I could do anything. Like whatever,
Love it.
actually, and I was honest with him. I was like, look, you know what? Coming out of COVID, I was tired and I wanted to sell my business for a while. I was like, you know what? I just don't think I want to do this anymore. I don't have the energy to do this anymore. But once I found that in myself to keep going, I realized like, wow, look at all these things that I learned. Like, okay, like this has been a tough year. This has been a tough year in this economy, but whatever problems we have, like we're open for business and we can sell. Like we can figure it out. Like during COVID, it was like,
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember, we were one of the businesses that were closed, the first to close and the last to open. So every day we woke up on Tuesday mornings and we just like watched the news to see if it went from purple to red to I can't remember what color. And then when it changed colors, we can open. It was like
Oh,
it was completely out of your control.
yeah.
Whereas even as bad as things are or as tough as the world is, like there's something you can do. You know?
Right. What got you guys through COVID?
A lot of the government subsidies we got and our investors like continue to invest in us and to believe in us.
Mm.
Yeah. And actually even our members, I talked to an investor recently and he during COVID, he paid his membership dues. He continued to pay even though we were closed. And I said, "Hey,
Wow.
look, you know what? That paid for somebody's job. Thank you for doing it."
That's amazing. It reminds me of just what you said about the community aspect.
Yeah.
and how that was what attracted you to climbing. Could you tell us a little bit about the story as to how you founded the business? I know that it had a lot to do with a breakup that you were going through, but tell us more about that and how it became sort of like a way for you to heal.
So, I'll tell you the story, and I'm actually gonna the full circle story, and I'll send this
Yes.
podcast to my ex-boyfriend because I talked to him recently. I went to UCLA, and in college, I had a really serious boyfriend. We were together for 5 years, and we met when we were in investment banking, and his family is from Hong Kong, and he always wanted to go back to Hong Kong, and he had gotten this job, working for a hedge fund in Hong Kong. So at that point, we'd been together for 5 years. I was selling toys and I was like packing my bags and I was like, okay, you know what? We're gonna go to Hong Kong. We're gonna get married. Like, this is it. This is my life. Like, I just had like when I was 26, I had this vision that I just like wanted to go move to Hong Kong, to be a stay-home mom. I don't know. And right before I left, he told me, he was like, you know what? I don't think you'd be happy there. I don't want to drag you out of your element and move halfway across the world. And, I was super angry at him, so I broke up with him actually. But after
Mm.
that, I was entered this deep, dark depression. I was super depressed. And in this winter of '06, I think it was, I moved to Hong Kong anyways for this job that I had gotten. And when I got here, one day he called me and he said, "I want you to hear this from me first, but I'm getting married." And, like,
Oh,
look, at the time, like, now when I look back at it, right, like, I get it, like, but at the time, it was like, "Wow, it must be because I was fat or I'm not good enough." It's
oh
like,
no.
it's gotta be about me, you know? It's like, I'm not marriage material, something's wrong with
Right.
me, it's me, 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 and I was so angry at him, I threw the phone, I was like, "Never call me again," and then I moved to London in '07,
Mm. Mm.
and I started climbing. So I got to London, and it was really cold in the wintertime, actually like today, it was raining all the time. And
Mm.
one of my friends said, "You know what? You should try to do this thing. You should try coming to the come to the climbing gym with me." So I went with someone to the climbing gym, and it changed my life. So I
Mhm.
started climbing, 5 days a week. I was going to Bikram yoga and rock climbing every day. And then I hear the story a lot, right? People start businesses or they go through a life transition or do something really
Yes.
big. Maybe start a podcast, right? Or like
Mhm.
something because of, like, a big event in their lives, and I think
Yes.
for me, that was what it was, and I can't tell you exactly the day that I felt better, but it was, like,
Mhm.
one day I just felt better. I just remember one day waking up like, "Oh, I feel better,"
Mm.
and then I came back to the US in '08, and I was climbing, and I came back. I was working for a toy company, and my contract was over, so I came back to the US, and I was climbing here in Santa Monica at a climbing gym. And then my husband and I met my other business partner. So then we started this business that, like, hey, you know what? It was around this idea that like climbing had helped us and saved our lives. And we wanted to introduce climbing to more people.
Mm.
Yeah.
So your husband is also a climber. Is that how you met? You both were
Yeah. I
climbing?
met him at a
Okay.
birthday party. And he had been climbing way longer. He'd been climbing for, gosh, he started climbing in college. And we just kind of talked about climbing and then we started climbing together.
Oh, wow, that's so cute. And s so what am what were some of the aspects of climbing that helped you heal? I know that community is a big one for you.
Right. You know how everyone goes through this, right? Like after a breakup, there's a breakup, and then there's a breakup of the things. There's the dividing of the things, and then there's a dividing of the friends. You get that? And
Yes.
then I remember I was like, it was 2006. I was 7 years old, and every phone call I got from somebody I knew was, "Oh my God, I'm engaged. I'm getting married this month, and like, please come to my wedding." I went to 8 weddings, in 2006, and it was just really hard. Like it was really hard to live
Mm.
in this environment, and I wanted to, like, run away from my life, and this is why I moved to London because I wanted to get away from my life, honestly.
Mhm.
What was
Mm.
really nice about going to the climbing gym is I didn't wanna go to like, I didn't wanna talk to the friends that I have. I didn't wanna have another conversation with somebody who was getting engaged and getting married and you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to talk about something just
Right.
not about this part of my life, and at the climbing gym, we sat around and we talked about, "Hey, how do you" how do you get to the top? Like, teach me how to do this thing. Or how do we solve this problem together? So, like, I think it was just this, like a changing of our environment that you can talk about something different. And like, I didn't talk about, I felt like I was really failing in my life. And it was an opportunity for me to talk about something other than this thing that I was failing at.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I what I really resonate with that is you discovered something new, you were curious about it, and you had people to connect with about it,
Right.
which makes it so much more sticky in terms of having something else to focus on
Right.
instead of, focusing on this other thing that isn't really making you happy or fulfilled at that moment.
And
Um,
when you're climbing, like, have you tried climbing? You've tried climbing before, like, but when you're on the wall,
I
right?
have.
You cannot
Mhm.
actually think about anything else besides
No,
this
it's
thing that you are
hard.
doing, right?
Yes.
So you
Yes.
have to pay attention to this thing that you're doing with your body and your mind. So then, like, time just kinda passes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say it's helped make you more present
Oh,
even
for
in your
sure.
overall life? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not somebody that's great at being present, so yes, for sure. Yeah. Especially when you're, like, hanging up the wall somewhere, you're like, "Oh my god, I have to get this next hold, otherwise I might fall," and it's scary.
Yeah. So you're in the US, you're back in the US, you're with your business partner and your husband, who's also your business partner, and you guys decide to open a rock climbing facility. Was there anything missing that you found at other rock climbing places that, like, inspired you to wanna open your own? Or maybe there's something that you wanted to do differently that you weren't seeing?
So, honestly, I've been talking to a lot of entrepreneurs about this. It's like, okay, when we started the business, we really did it because it was fun. Like, this thing that I have right now with all these locations and, expanding, being on a podcast, I didn't even dream this, that Mary, right? Like, I didn't it wasn't a possibility that I even thought of would be possible. I had a job that I loved. I was really good at my job. I was an executive at a toy company, traveling the world, and I wanted to open a climbing gym so I can go climbing on the weekends. Like, that's really all I wanted to do. And I had heard that a lot of professionals have a Subway on the side or like a coffee shop or a boba shop. And I was like, you
Yeah.
know what? I want my thing to be on the weekend to be a climbing gym. And
Fun.
so we opened the first location with a lot of our own money and like a lot of our friends and family. Like, I went to my
Yep.
best friends. Actually, I didn't even ask my best friend for money. I remember this. I was raising money from a bunch of people, my brother, my mom, my sister-in-law, and then I was at my best friend's house and he was like, "Why haven't you asked me for money?" And I said, "Because I don't want to." I was like, "You had a baby, you just bought a house, and I know you need this money more than I do, so I don't wanna ask you to be an investor." He was like, "Well, I wanna invest money in your business."
Mm.
It was like this, and I think that that's what and also I think that's what you need, right? Like, you need people
Yes,
who believe in you,
exactly.
and he would literally was like, "If I never see this money again, I'll still be okay."
Oh my gosh, I love that. So which location did you all open first?
Orange County, Santa Ana.
Santa Ana location. And how did that whole experience go, and how did that turn into another location and another location?
So, again, like I said, because when we started, we just wanted this thing to be like a weekend thing, so we put together and
Mhm.
here's the thing, like, we are, like, business people, my partners and I, right? My husband's a lawyer, and we had a financial model and business plans, which you just, like, learn how figure out how to do it, and in our original business plan, I think we said we wanted to have 800 members in, like, year 3. And by
Mm,
the end of the first 6 months, we had 800 members. We have, like,
dang.
thousands of members. So it just I don't know, it turned into this huge thing that I didn't even expect. Or here's another one, like, you've
Mhm.
been to the LA location with the birthday party in the kids area,
Yes.
right? I
Mhm.
That was another one. It was, like, when we opened, we're like, "Okay, we wanna have this kids' birthday party area." Like, we think maybe, like, we'll have 1 birthday party a day. I mean, I just heard my manager told me that in LA, we have 45 birthday parties this month.
Wow,
Yeah, so,
that's
like,
more
I
than
got
one a
into the
day.
right, like, I got into the birthday party business, like, a little bit just, like, by luck, but then but I also really believe that entrepreneurship is about it's like luck. It really like luck and hard work, right? And then also there's
Yes.
bad luck, like, COVID was bad luck. Like, who
Right,
knew that was gonna
right.
happen? But what you need to do is when you have good luck, you need to leverage the good luck and do something with the good luck.
Right.
right? So when
Yes.
we figured out, like, wow, we actually have this amazing birthday party business, like, what more are we gonna do with it? Like, how are we gonna grow this, right? What are we gonna do with this
Mhm.
opportunity? And what are we gonna do with the
Mhm.
brand?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What comes up for me during that specific, explanation that you were giving is that presence is so important when you have a business, especially like yours, like noticing what's working in real time and like leveraging that,
right.
in a
Yeah.
timely way. So it doesn't seem like entrepreneurship was really something that was like, I guess, yours when you were younger, right? It, like you
No.
said, it's sort of just kind of like was something that you wanted to do on the weekends. And it just sort of grew on its own, and you guys have just been growing with it since then. It's a very organic story, Alice. It's really cool.
You know what? I
Um,
mean, it's funny because going back to the name of your podcast, right? Tradition Breakers. I
yeah.
mean, I was raised because my parents weren't around. My dad passed away when I was little, and my mom, wasn't around when I was young. So my grandmother raised me. And
Mm,
my grandmother she passed away, at 95. Like, she lived a great life, but, like, she, came to Taiwan during the war, and she had 9 kids, you know what I mean? Like, she
mm,
didn't go to school. She was like the traditional Taiwanese grandma who said women should be seen and not heard, and, like, put your head down and work hard, and,
mhm,
like, do not rock the boat. Like, don't speak up. She would always ask me until the day she died, "Did you eat well?" Like, and she would, like, the thing
mhm.
that would make my grandmother proud is if I married well and, like, had 2 kids, you know? Like, that's what she
Yep.
wanted. And because she raised me, I had a lot of that, like, "Oh, I need to be a good, obedient Asian woman,"
Mm,
which is
mm,
who I am not, but I have this, like, I tell people all the time, like, I carry this Asian woman backpack, and it's very heavy because
mhm.
everybody comes with it, right? It's like the thing
Yeah.
you're taught, and you have to decide at some point in your life, "Hey, when is it time to put it down?"
Yeah. 'Cause it's
Yeah.
heavy, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, it's sorta like guilt at the back of your mind, kinda like
Yeah.
gnawing at you. Which is a great segue to my next question because I remember you saying in your bio, like, you hate following rules, but love to rally ball, right? How did like those two qualities of yours keep serving you today? And how did it serve you back when you were starting Sender One?
So, I tell people all the time that actually, I didn't even know this. A mentor of mine told me recently, a couple years ago. He said, "Do you know what your superpower is?" And I was like, "No, I don't know." He goes, I've mentored a lot of entrepreneurs, and I think that your superpower is your ability to ask for help." And I was like, "Really? I didn't even know
Mm,
that was like a thing." And this is because when I was growing up, I was not the smartest kid in school. So, funny story, like, my husband is, like, the smartest person I know. He went to Harvard. He got a 1,600 on the SAT. He went to Harvard for
dang.
4 years and then law school for 3 years. So, I always, like, I look up to him. I was like, "Wow," he's the poster child, right, of, like, what Asian parents think, a good
Yes.
Asian kid, right? And I school was hard, Mary. Like, I mean, I went to
Mm,
UCLA, but, like, I studied my ass off, and I have the story where I was taking there was a statistics class at UCLA, I remember this, and it was so hard. I got a B minus, I remember, but I went to the TA's class, like, every day. I went to his office hours every day because I just couldn't figure out, like, I didn't know, I didn't understand what the professor was teaching. So I think he honestly felt
mm,
sorry. I don't know, he probably felt sorry for me, so he passed me, but, like, my point, though, is that school was always really hard, so I always operate with the assumption that I don't have the right answer, or I am not the
mhm,
smartest person in the room, right? So,
mhm,
if I don't
mhm.
have the right answer, or if I'm not the smartest person, somebody else must have the answer that I don't have.
Does that make
That makes
you
sense.
decisive or indecisive or neither?
I'm very decisive, but I think when I have a problem, I will crowdsource the answer. I'll ask like 100 people, like, "What do you think I should do about this?" And then once I figure out what that is,
Mhm.
then I'm actually very decisive. I'm like, "Okay, you know what? I like this answer," or like, "I think this is the right direction." And then the thing that I'm
I
really good
love
at,
that.
then the thing that I discovered that I'm really good at is I will then convince the next 100 or 200 or 300 people to go do this thing that I believe in. But
Oh,
my
I
point though
love
is like
that.
I'm not often the person that comes up with the cool answers or the ideas. Like, once in a while, I do.
Yeah.
But I have this fundamental belief that other people must have the answers that I don't have. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. That's I understand why that's a superpower. You're like, "Oh my gosh, you're such a community person, Alice." It's so great because, like, there's so much gold and value that you can get from the people that you surround yourself by. It seems like you have really smart people around you, including your husband, like, starting
Yeah.
with your husband, you know? And I also went to UCLA, by the way. I was like, "Oh, I was gonna tell
Yeah.
her that," but then I forgot. So you discovered that, or your mentor told you that, rallying people, getting them behind your idea, asking questions. Is that something that you also, I guess, like, model for, like, your team? Is that the culture that you have created at Sender One as well amongst the teammates or the people that you employ?
Yeah, I mean, I try to, I think that
Mhm.
we definitely try to have a culture of asking for help. Like, we
Mhm.
teach this all the time that, "Hey, it's always okay to not know the answer. If you don't know
Mhm.
the answer, just say you don't know the answer. Don't, like, make
Right.
up an answer." Yeah.
I think that's really important because at times there's this need that people have to pretend that they know the answer for, fear of, like, judgment or ridicule. I know that's something that I struggled with in school, and sometimes still to this day, where asking questions sometimes to me feels like a defeat or I'm going to get judgment around it. So I don't ask the question. And recently, I've discovered that that's like the best way to gaslight myself if I don't do that,
Yeah.
or to, like, put myself down is by not listening to my needs for clarity. So I'm totally like I'm still in it. I'm like in the process of really making sure that I, like, don't keep doing that. So thank you for reminding me of that.
You're welcome. It's just, it's not rainbows and butterflies every day.
Mm-mm.
I was and nobody is crushing it all the time. It never looks like what you think it is.
Yeah.
And I think the work is constantly telling yourself that, like, I say this sometimes to people, like, I've done a lot of personal development and, like, spirituality
Yeah.
work the last couple of years. And for me, it's about, you know what, I know that I'm good enough. I really know
Mm-hmm.
that, right? It's like I read a book and you
Mm-hmm.
read it, and you're like, okay, this is a concept and you understand. But I don't always feel like I'm good enough. And
Mm.
something will happen, and I'll be like, "Oh my god, I suck at this," or like, "Oh," like,
Right?
I have days that I wanna quit my job. Seriously, like, I had one of those days last week. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so bad at this. I wanna quit my
And you're
job."
the owner.
And it's okay, and it just happens sometimes, and I'm, like, allowed to have
Right?
a day where I wanna quit my job. Yeah.
And that's okay, right? I think what I'm hearing you say, it's alright if you have that feeling.
Yeah.
You're not a bad person, like, you're not a bad entrepreneur or business owner. For you, you talked about personal growth, spirituality. What are some of, like, the ego deaths that you had to go through or triggers that you had to surpass in order to be the leader that you are today or the person that you are today?
Ego deaths. I don't no one's ever actually asked me that question before, but I will share that, like, something that I've been dealing with. I belong to a CEO group, and I'm really close to them, and, we meet every month, and this is something we talked about recently, is, like, I don't believe my story. Does that make sense? Like, I'm trying to
Tell
convince
me
myself to believe my
more.
own story. It's like this concept that I was telling you
Okay.
earlier. It's like, I think that
Yes.
I know my husband makes fun of me. He was like, you go on, like, in public and you tell people that you think you're not good enough, and it just sounds ridiculous because how can someone like you think you're not good enough?" But I really think that, Mary. Like, I really wake up a
Mm.
lot of days and I think that I'm not good enough. And it's just like I'm not doing enough, I'm being a
Yeah.
bad mom, I'm being a bad leader, I'm screwing up on my job, I don't know how to do this. Like, I have a lot of those moments, and I'm, like, working hard to convince myself all the time to believe in my story that, like, okay, that's not true. Do you know what I mean? Like, it can
Mhm,
look
mhm,
imperfect and you can still be doing a good job. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, that's a
I feel
hard
like
one.
I feel like I'm gonna be doing that my whole life.
Right.
Yeah.
I used to think that growth means like, oh, you learned something and, you never have to deal with it again. You're healed. And as I'm getting older, I'm like, no, it's there. Now I'm basically just learning how to like be friends with it, like to be aware about it, right? That it's there. And then learning tools to manage it and not let it rule my decisions or my life.
Yeah. And I'll tell
That's,
you, and again, in the spirit of like traditional breaking, also
mm-hmm,
say that I think that like this Asian woman backpack that I carry, it's like I put it down, I put it down, I put it down, but sometimes I just pick it up. I don't know why, and I'm frustrated at myself, you know?
mm.
So like for
When do you
example,
usually pick it up? Like, yeah, do you remember like when? Like what's happening when you pick it up?
it's like my grandma, I was telling the story about my grandma, she passed away a couple years ago, and
Yeah.
I knew that I was never gonna get her approval, even on the day that she
Mhm.
died, right? Like
Mm.
her vision, the vision that she has for my life is be a stay-at-home mom, have a bunch of kids, marry a husband who, makes a lot more money than I do, right? And like live in a white
Mhm.
picket fence house. Like that's what she wanted me to have because that's what she thinks that'll make me happy. And that's not the life that I have. I want to call my grandma and say, "Hey, look at this thing that I'm doing. I'm a rock climber. I'm on TV and like I'm opening up this
Mm.
amazing business and like, I'm doing public speaking gigs in front of thousands of people." Like I wanted to call my grandma and I wanted so deeply for her to say, "Wow, I'm so proud of you." She never said that. And at some point, like, I think I had to accept that I didn't need that for her. I didn't need
Mhm.
her to say that for me, right? I didn't need her to say that for me to feel like I was enough.
Mm.
And I just like, I don't know, I forget it sometimes. I still think like, "Oh, but wouldn't it be nice if she said that?" Do you know what I mean?
What do you forget? You forget that it's okay that she didn't say that, that you don't need that?
Yeah, because I think that
Mm.
deep down, I'm still looking for my mom, my grandma, my in-laws, whoever. I'm looking for my Asian parents' approval. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
never gonna come. That's not true. My
Never.
my mom's my mother's pretty supportive. My mom's actually very supportive of my business, but not everybody in my family is. Like, they think that this thing we do is crazy.
Mm.
Yeah,
The climbing or owning a business?
all of it.
What do you say to that when do they tell that to you in person or to your face? And how do you
Yeah,
react when that happens if they do?
you just don't. You just have to let it go. Yeah.
Mhm.
'Cause you're not
Yeah.
doing this for other people, right? We're doing it for us, we're not doing it for other people.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious because of the nature of our audience. A lot of Asian Americans, we have very similar family dynamics when it
Yeah,
comes to
right.
expectations, right? So I always like to ask, like, how do my guests handle those types of situations where they're encountering, disapproval or lack of support from their family? Where do you get most of your support? And how do you work through these situations? Is it therapy? Is it different modalities, healing modalities? What has worked for you?
I think for me, it's about having a community of people. It's like having a
Mhm.
core group of people who believe in you. I
Mhm.
think my best friends are the ones that I believe that we all know who we are. Like, I know who I am, but sometimes when I have a bad day, I forget, right? I
Yeah.
forget who I am, and you need
Yeah.
people around you to remind you who you are.
Mm.
That's what I believe in. And to going
Yeah.
back to my point earlier about I don't have all the answers, like, I don't know. Like, it's really hard. I have a hard time with this, like, trying to get approval,
Yeah.
so maybe somebody else can give me an answer, like, another way. Like, I'm always looking for,
Yeah.
like, another way. Like, how do I just let it go? How do I not let it bother me? But it does,
Okay.
it does. Yeah.
It does. And it's great that you're honest about it. So, you guys, if you have the answer, jot it down in the comments because I want to know too. So, you mentioned earlier that you have a CEO group that you meet with, and community is a big deal for you. As someone who owns a business, as someone who is a woman entrepreneur, what do you recommend other business owners or women entrepreneurs do to, I guess, keep themselves sane and keep their game up if they're in this world of business owning and entrepreneurship? Like, what should they have around them to basically like set them up for success?
So, I think we can find community in many different ways.
Mhm.
I have my community in rock climbing, right? I have a bunch of my friends that I
Mhm.
climb with. And if that's the community you need, this is where you can find it. It's people go to CrossFit or yoga or, whatever it is that they do. There's different support groups. There's different, whether it's for women, it's entrepreneurs, it's professional groups. I think it's important to find people who are going through the same things that you're going through in life.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think that's what has really helped me not be so lonely for the last 14 years, because when I started the first location opened in 2013, but I remember at the time I felt really lonely the first couple of years because all of my friends were professionals. They were like
Mm.
accountants and lawyers and bankers, right? People who had jobs because that's what I did. That's what I had a job. And I remember I wasn't sure I was gonna make payroll. I was like, "Oh my god, next week payroll is due and we didn't sell enough. Like, what if we can't pay our employees?" And, like, I didn't know who can relate to that. Like, I needed to find someone
Right.
who told me, like, "Okay, you know what? I've done that before. I've been there, and
Right.
you're gonna get through this. You're gonna be okay."
Mm.
So, like, whatever it is I think that we're going through, I think there's somebody else out there that's going through the same thing, and you can
Mhm.
find a lot of support and community when you find that other person.
Mhm. It's
Yeah.
really good advice. And there's so many places to look up community, right? Especially
Yeah.
nowadays. There's so many groups online, um, that have, like, any type of interest or any type of activity that you're into that you wanna connect with. You're someone who wears your heart on your sleeve, right? You've talked about embracing emotional expression, even crying in meetings. How has that become a strength in your leadership?
People in my company make fun of me because sometimes we'll be in a meeting and be like, "Okay, there you go. Don't say this thing so Alice is gonna cry." I emote like a very, very emotional person. When I hear something very touching or moving, I don't know, I tear up or I have a very strong emotional expression. Well, I think the world is changing also that to accepting that that's okay, you know?
Mhm.
It's okay to be like that.
Having
It's just
emotion?
right. It's just
Yeah.
because I am crying or I am upset or I am right? Men and women go through this. Like when men are angry at meetings, it's like, oh, you know what? Like, yeah, he's being a leader. When women are crying, it's like, no, she's being emotional. It's like, no, I can still do my job. I can have this conversation. I'm just having a moment. It
Right.
doesn't, yeah. But I definitely like, you know, fun, like whether I'm in the construction business, whether I like it or not, right? Like we have construction, we've had construction crews build these big buildings. And
Yeah.
I remember a couple of years ago, I walked into a construction meeting and I was having an emotional moment. I was crying and I left the room and I heard a bunch of men be like, "Well, what's wrong with her?" You know that?
Mm.
I actually remember this meeting.
My god. What'd
Yeah.
you say?
Nothing. I was actually super upset. I went to the bathroom and cried and then I came back and I was like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm the one in charge here."
Yes, thank you.
But
My
sometimes
god.
that happens. Yeah. Like that's the
It
thing is
does.
like the world is going to do what the world is going to like we have a choice. Like I also really believe that we have a choice on how we react to the world.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we have control over is how we react, right? We can't control what those men were saying, how they were getting themselves, but you were able to control yourself and acted.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's the key takeaway with this question is you, how you react is in your control and it's in your choice. And that emotions nowadays are being a lot, people are being more receptive and accepting of different emotions in the professional world too. Self discovery look like for you now compared to when you first pick up your climbing shoes?
Self-discovery.
Yeah.
Well, every year I do this every year. I take a couple of days off or sometimes a week and I go try to spend some like personal development time. Like actually this year I did a silent meditation retreat in Santa Barbara and it was 3
Oh,
days of silence and it was really scary. It was really
what made you
scary.
want to do that?
I don't know. Somebody brought it up and I was like, "Oh, I've never tried that before. I'm going to go do it." But, it was 2 hours away from LA. We drove out, stayed at this dorm and it was no talking. It was like sitting in silence, eating in silence and no music, nothing. And there was a couple of what do you call it? There was like the session leader and but the teacher, but she didn't say very much. She would lecture for a few minutes and she would say, let's just sit in silence. And you just feel like you're sitting in silence forever. It's like hours and hours and hours, right? And when that happened, my mind just went places. And actually, what I
Mm,
realized is when in silence, my mind usually goes to negative places. I don't know if it's a human condition or it's just me, but for me, when I'm in a lot of silence, my mind goes into negative places and it goes into, oh my God, what if this terrible thing happened to my kids? Oh my goodness, what's going to happen to my
mm,
business? You just go down this rabbit
mhm.
hole. But what was really amazing after doing that for 3 days was I realized that I started to coach myself out of my negativity. Like at some
Mm,
point in day two, I started telling myself, you know what? It's going to be okay. Like I know this is going to be okay. And
yeah.
my big takeaway from this year's trip, this meditation retreat, was that I have everything inside of me to heal myself. I don't need someone to teach me how to heal myself because I know how to do that by myself, and it's very empowering.
That's so empowering.
Yeah.
Wow. It's very in line with what I have been experiencing lately because yesterday I discovered that like in the morning when I wake up, I have negative thoughts, and thoughts cause me to feel more stress. And that's what gets me up in the morning out of bed. I'm like, huh. I'm just kind of like being aware of this and observing it without any judgment. Cause before I would judge this as like, oh God, you're such a like a, negative person. I would shame myself for it. But now that made me realize like, well, cortisol is a stress hormone. And cortisol is actually what wakes us up in the morning. So it's very normal for me to have cortisol in my body to wake me up. What I don't like about the process is, and I'm still trying to understand this, like, why does that cortisol then lead me to think of negative things? And why do I need to think of negative things for me to get out of bed? Does that make sense?
It totally
So,
does, and I get it. Like, I woke up this morning too, I was like, "Oh, I have these meetings, I have to solve this problem, this is not going well,"
yes.
but then, like, that motivates me to get out of bed, right?
Yes, yes, it
Yeah.
does. And I'm like, is there a way where positive things can get me out of bed, right?
Right.
Like, oh, like I have this interview with Alice and I'm building, these things and I have these projects. Like, why can that not wake me up instead of, oh my God, I have to do this and that is happening. Like, I'm not doing a good job here.
Are your ads costing more than they're bringing in? Are influencers posting about your brand but not driving sales? Are your emails going out but no one's clicking or buying? If that sounds familiar, your business doesn't need more marketing. It needs a sharper message and a smarter strategy. Hi, I'm Mary Moses, fractional CMO for hospitality, retail, and beauty brands. For over a decade, I've led marketing for national restaurant chains and e-commerce brands, helping founders grow by creating a clear, impactful message that aligns with who tells it, where it's told, and who it's told to. Because when your message, messengers, and communication channels are in sync, marketing stops being noise and starts driving profit. This month, I'm offering 5 founders a complimentary 20-minute brand growth reset audit. In this call, we'll do 3 things. 1, identify what actually drove results for you in 2025. 2, uncover the gaps limiting retention and profitability. And 3, define the 2 to 3 strategic moves that will position your brand to grow faster next year. To sign up, just go to tastydirectives.com. Now remember, there's only 5 spots. So if I were you, I would pause this real quick and just sign up right now. Again, that's tastydirectives.com.
Like, how normal is that, number one? Or how common is that? Is that something that a lot of people go through? And then two, what do I need to do for me to retrain my brain to think differently when I wake up in the morning?
Okay, so
Uh,
first of all, it's not you're not alone because see, you just told me, and now there's 2 of us that think this way, so we're not alone.
yes. Okay.
Um, but I'll tell you, actually, a friend of mine taught me this tip. I took this manifestation class with my friend this year, and she told me that, "Hey, when you are feeling down about yourself, the thing to kind of get yourself out of it is actually to call somebody or to do something for someone to make somebody else's day. And that totally works. Yeah.
I like that.
So for
Okay.
me, I'm like, okay, who can I help today to feel better? Because, when you help someone to feel better, you feel better about yourself. You're like, oh, look at me. I did this
Yes.
thing. Right? Yeah.
Yes. No, that's great advice. That's great advice. It reminds me of what I'm doing when I go into like certain situations, like social situations, and I'm like, okay, you're here to give. You're not here to like take, like taking energy, right? Like and I just want to be of service. That's like my whole thing. And any interaction that I enter, like I want to be of service as opposed to what can you do for me? And that changes so much in terms of the response I get from people because I'm coming in that situation like feeling full and feeling like I don't need anything from anyone here to feel like I'm complete. And because I feel like I'm complete, I end up being a lot more confident and attractive and magnetic to people. Does that
Yeah.
happen? Does that ever happen to you?
Oh, totally. All the time. It's just like such a loop.
Right?
Yeah.
It
You
is
know what
such a
though?
loop.
Isn't it? I think that I don't know. I'm figuring this out still, but I'm starting to realize that just like most of the world operates this way. Like, I have my husband and I'm actually doing this talk about the little voices in our heads. I have a little voice in my head. It's like what you said. You wake up in the morning, you have a little voice,
Yes.
right? And
Little
I am
voice.
like, I think most people have it. I'm starting to think that most people have it. Yeah.
Okay.
And
That's
most of
good.
the time, this little voice is kind of negative. So we are always constantly trying to like retrain and recoach our little voice. My
Okay,
husband
so
tells
what
me he
is
doesn't have a little voice. He's like, "I don't have a little voice. You're the only one." But, like, I'm like, "Okay, well, I don't know a
interesting?
lot of people that are like you, because most people I know are like me." Yeah.
What is this talk that you're doing?
I'm actually, like, contemplating whether I wanna apply to do a TEDx really soon, but I've
Mhm.
done a talk with my entrepreneur groups. I've done it 5 or 6 times now this year. It's about
Mhm.
this inner voice. It's an inner child story. I'll send you the recording when I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, send it to me. I'd
Yeah.
love to hear it. Because that sounds really interesting, right up my alley. What do you hope other AAPI founders or creatives, entrepreneurs learn from your journey of choosing a life that looks different from what was expected from you?
Hmm, that's a good question. I don't know, I guess that maybe it's just that I try to remind myself every day when I wake up and look at myself in the mirror that I'm doing it just for me, right?
Mm.
And it doesn't really matter what other people think or what other people say. Like I said, I told you earlier, I wish I didn't care. I wish I didn't care, but I care. And I have to remind myself every day that I'm really doing this for me. I'm building this company for me. I'm being on this podcast for me. And if somebody gets something out of it, that's great. But it's what I'm getting out of it because ultimately it's my life. And, I heard, like I said, one of my coaches told me a couple of years ago, he was like, look, I try to remember that one day when I'm dying and I'm lying on my deathbed, I'm not going to remember how much money is in my bank account or how many gyms I opened, or like how many employees I had. Like, that stuff doesn't matter. But what you're going to remember is the experiences and the people's lives that you've changed. And you're going to remember these like memories, right? Of these powerful
Yeah.
conversations. And like, so I think that I'm really trying to live my life to build memories and moments that I'm gonna remember one day when I'm, like, lying there and I can't climb anymore. I'm just, like, waiting to die,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
it's hard, but it's hard because I forget that a lot.
Yeah. What causes you to forget it?
Life,
Mhm.
trying to run a business and figuring out, like, how to make a profit and raising kids and dealing with, like, an aging mom and just life, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, those are
Driving home
y
in traffic on the 405. Which I'm gonna be
yes. Oh
doing
my
in a little
gosh.
bit. Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that for sure. Life definitely has its way of doing that to you. But it seems like you have an outlet, climbing, that helps bring you back to the present moment and reminds you of the things that, like, light you up.
what you said about doing things for yourself reminds me of what Rick Rubin said, who's a producer, like a music
Mhm.
producer.
Yeah.
And he talks about how when he creates music, he does it for himself,
Yeah.
and he doesn't think about what's going to sound good for other people. He does it for his enjoyment. And if he likes it, then he'll put it out. And if other people like it, great. But what matters is that he's proud of it and he feels good about that. So, two things. I think that causes you to be proud of your work, and number two, it removes that like feeling of resentment if you're doing it for other people and you're not enjoying it anymore, right?
Yeah.
Um which is so painful and not a fun place to be in, that resentment loop. Alice, is there anything else that you want to say to our listeners that we didn't get to today?
I don't think so. This has been really fun. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. If you all want to visit Sender One, if you're in the SoCal region, look them up. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, Alice, is there a way that they can do that? Maybe on DMs on Instagram?
Yeah, you can look me up on LinkedIn. I recently started posting a little bit with a friend's help. So I try to check my
Perfect.
messages semi-frequently. Yeah,
It's a
but it's
little
a
bit of
lot.
a
It's like
challenge.
a full-time job. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So we'll put in the domain for Sender One and also Alice's information in the show notes. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
If you like this episode, consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a rating and review. Tradition Breakers is produced by Tasty Sounds, and the theme music is by DJ Professor Moses.